What's up guys, I am Prayag from The Ordinary Life and today I'll be talking about all the announcement that Apple made in the WWDC 2019. So I'm gonna start with tvOS. So as you might know, Apple is launching its own streaming service like Netflix this September, and for that Apple has introduced multi-user support to Apple TV. So now just like Netflix, you can get personalized content on Apple TV, and with the Apple TV Plus service also comes the Apple Arcade for games. And for that, Apple is introducing support for Xbox controller and PS4 controller, which is very unlike Apple. So the next thing that Apple announced was the watchOS 6. So now with the watchOS 6, Apple Watch becomes more independent, and now I don't think you might need an iPhone to use your Apple Watch. It's becoming more and more independent. Like now you can download apps straight on the Apple Watch with App Store built right into the Apple Watch. And also now the updates in the Apple Watch will not require iPhone, as the Apple Watch will update itself just like any other Apple device does. Also, some bonus things are that voice memos and calculator from the iPhone are now on Apple Watch built in, so you can record your voice anytime you want with the voice memos app, and the calculator is also a good thing on Apple Watch. So Apple also announced the iOS 13, but I'll be making a separate video on iOS 13 as there's much to share about the iOS 13 that cannot be covered in one video, and some other features that Apple announced widely for all the OS is Indian Siri voices, and also 22 new Indian languages support for the iPhone, and that's just amazing. So unlike every other year, this year iPad is getting its own OS, iPad OS. And to be honest, the iPad OS has been long due because the power you get with the iPad is just amazing, and iOS kind of limited it. Even now with the iPad OS, it's little bit restricted, but it's still better than iOS. Like you can connect USB-C, and all the other things that you can do with the computer are now on the iPad. And also Safari on the iPad will be getting default desktop view. And also a bonus in iPad OS is that now you can download things from the internet directly to your iPad into the files. There's a new app that Apple announced called Find My, which basically connects Find My iPhone and Find My Friends into one. And now the new feature is that it can even search for your phone when it's offline, and it basically works with a Bluetooth signal that your iPhone sends to other Apple devices nearby. And that way, with the internet on their devices, you get the location of your device. OS Catalina, RIP iTunes. So iTunes is now officially dead. Apple now calls it Apple Music, and the paid listening to the iTunes Music is now gone. Only Apple Music exists now, and all the other features that you got from iTunes for your iPhone like backup and stuff is now directly built into the Finder app on the Mac OS. That's good, but I really had a thing for iTunes. This might be one of my favorite features from the macOS Catalina. Now with the iPad OS and macOS Catalina, you can use your iPad as the second display for your Mac device, and that has been long due because you get such a big screen on iPad, and it is kind of a bummer that you can't use it as a second display. It's good that it's here now, and it's here to stay. Apple also announced screen time on Mac, which is quite useful. I use it regularly on iPhone, and I'll see how it works on the Mac. So as we saw last year, a lot of iPad apps came to the Mac OS. Now Apple with the project Catalyst, that's what they call it, they are giving developers the option to convert their iPad apps into macOS app with just less amount of coding required. And that's just amazing, because now you'll get pretty much every other iPad app on the Mac, and that will make the usability of Mac. So the biggest announcement of WWDC was the Mac Pro, and the Mac Pro is the powerhouse that you can get at the lowest price. There are rumors that the highest end model of the Mac Pro will cost 35,000, but even then the Mac Pro will cost lesser than a lot of custom built PCs out there in the market. And the RAM in Mac Pro goes up to 1.5 terabyte, and the highest RAM that I used is 16 GB, and I don't know what will be the use of 1.5 terabytes, but I'm not a pro user. It might be useful for the pro users, but one bummer for me was that the base configuration of the SSD is still 256 GB in a pro CPU, and that's ridiculous, because you just leave it. The pricing of the Mac Pro will be starting from $5,999, and they also announced a new monitor from Apple called Pro Display XDR. XDR stands for Extreme Dynamic Range, which is a notch higher than the high dynamic range that is standard for most of the pro users out there in the market. But it costs $5,000 without the stand. So the stand alone comes at $1,000, and that's what would you do of a monitor that comes without a stand? There's absolutely no use. They sell the stand separately. That's insane. So that's it for today's video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Stay tuned for the iOS 13 video coming shortly. As soon as I get my hands on the iOS 13, I'll be trying my best. Share the video to your friends and whoever you can think of right now. Like the video if you liked it. Dislike the video if you don't like it. And as always, stay tuned for more.